thought I was boarding a late-night train to Chicago, but when I stepped off, I wasn't anywhere on Earth. It was the winter of 1932, and the wind cut through my coat like it was paper. The Great Depression had turned cities into graveyards and men into ghosts, and I was just another hungry soul drifting between towns, looking for work that didn't exist. That night, in the small station of Galesburg, Illinois, I stood shivering on the empty platform. The timetable pinned to the wall was useless, no trains until morning. But as I turned to leave, I heard the faint whistle of a steam engine in the distance. It didn't make sense. There was nothing scheduled. The sound grew louder until a black locomotive emerged from the fog, massive and gleaming with fresh paint. Its brass fittings shone like new gold. But the strangest thing was the silence. No shouts from the crew, no clanging of metal, just the hiss of steam as it slowed to a stop. The doors opened without a word from anyone, and in that cold, desperate moment, I stepped inside. The car was warm, the seats upholstered in deep red velvet. Gas lamps flickered along the walls, casting long shadows. A dozen passengers sat scattered throughout, each dressed in fine clothing, top hats, wool coats, evening gowns. But none of them spoke. They didn't even look at me. I sat near the back, rubbing my hands together for warmth. The conductor entered from the far end, his uniform crisp, cap pulled low over his face. He moved down the aisle, but instead of checking tickets, he simply nodded at each passenger and kept walking. When he passed me, I realized something. He didn't have a shadow. Outside, the scenery rolled past, but it wasn't the dark farmlands of Illinois I expected. Instead, I saw things. First, a city burning, flames licking the sides of buildings while tiny black shapes twisted and writhed in the streets. Then, without transition, a forest of bare white trees. At first I thought they were birch, until I saw they were bones. Skulls hung from the branches like rotten fruit. I pressed my face to the glass, heart hammering, but no one else reacted. The passengers just stared forward, as still as statues. The train began to feel longer than it should. I swear I saw the same car repeating over and over as I walked, the same red seats, the same flickering lamps, the same passengers who never moved, and yet the faces of those passengers began to change. One woman's skin turned grey and sagged. The man across from her lost his eyes, leaving dark, empty sockets. Another passenger's head slowly rotated all the way around while his body stayed facing forward. When I stumbled back to my seat, I realized something else. The man sitting across from me now looked like my father, except my father had been dead for 10 years. I tried to stand, but the train seemed to shudder, not from the tracks, but from something deeper. Like the bones of the train itself were stretching. The lamps flickered, and for the first time, one of the passengers moved. A young boy turned his head toward me. His mouth opened wider than it should have, the corners splitting into the flesh, and he whispered in a voice like dry leaves, "You're not supposed to be here yet." The conductor returned, walking toward me. This time, I saw his face, or rather, the absence of it. Beneath the cap was a bleached skull, its teeth grinning in a way that wasn't human joy, but something older, colder. I backed away, shouting, "Stop this train! Let me off!" His jaw moved, and the sound came like the hiss of a dying fire. "Next stop is yours." The train screeched to a halt. Outside the window was no station, no platform, just an endless black field dotted with faint lights far in the distance, moving like lanterns in the fog. The door slid open on its own. Cold air rushed in, carrying the smell of damp earth and something. Metallic, blood, maybe. The passengers finally moved. Slowly, they all turned their heads toward me. Every one of them was now a corpse. Their eyes, if they still had them, were fixed on me. One by one, they smiled. The conductor pointed toward the darkness outside. His bony finger didn't shake. Time to disembark. I stepped back, refusing. But then, hands began to reach from beneath the seats, thin, pale fingers clawing at my boots, my coat, pulling me forward. The gas lamps went out, plunging the car into darkness. The last thing I saw before the cold swallowed me was the reflection in the window. Not of me, but of a pale, still passenger staring forward, eyes glassy, in my seat. And when I blinked, I was outside, standing in the endless field as the train pulled away without a sound. The lights in the distance began to move toward me. I never made it to Chicago, but every night since, I hear the whistle in the distance, and I know one night, when I look out my window, the black locomotive will be waiting again, and next time, I might not get off at all.